Have you ever loved someone so deeply that choosing them would shatter the one person you swore you'd protect? Eliana Monroe thought she was just attending her sister's engagement dinner until she stepped into that Manhattan penthouse and locked eyes with Damien Cross, the billionaire who once kissed her beneath a thunderstorm in Milan, then disappeared like a ghost. But he wasn't a stranger anymore. He was her sister's fiancé. And just when Eliana thought things couldn't get any worse, Clarissa died. But she didn't leave quietly. Her final letter held a secret so devastating, so unthinkable. It would unravel everything Eliana believed about that night in Milan. And the real reason Damien walked away. Was it love? Or was it betrayal wrapped in a kiss? You're about to find out. If powerful stories of love, loss, and redemption move you, hit that like button. It helps more people discover love stories worth telling. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love connecting with you. And be sure to subscribe and ring that bell, because every story I share is chosen to make you feel something real. Eliana Monroe had built her entire life around one simple rule: never look back. For 5 years, she'd carved out a quiet existence in Florence, Italy, working as a freelance translator and living in a tiny apartment overlooking the Arno River. She'd left New York and her family behind for good reasons. Or so she thought. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning, shattering her carefully constructed peace. "Eli, you have to come home." Her sister Clarissa's voice bubbled through the phone, breathless with excitement. "I'm getting married. Can you believe it? Me, married to the most incredible man in the world." Eliana's coffee cup trembled in her hands. Clarissa had always been the golden child, beautiful, successful, effortlessly charming. At 32, she was a rising star in Manhattan's art world, the kind of woman who collected hearts like vintage jewelry. "That's wonderful, Clary," Eliana managed, forcing enthusiasm into her voice. "Tell me about him." "Oh, Eli, he's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Rich, handsome, brilliant. And he chose me. The wedding's in 6 weeks, and I need my maid of honor. Please say you'll come." Eliana closed her eyes, feeling the familiar weight of family obligation settling on her shoulders. She'd missed birthdays, holidays, graduations, all to maintain the distance she needed to heal. But this was different. This was Clarissa's wedding. "Of course I'll be there," she heard herself saying. "I wouldn't miss it." What Clarissa didn't mention was the groom's name. She didn't need to, because when Eliana walked into that gleaming Manhattan penthouse 3 weeks later, her world tilted off its axis. There, standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows with a glass of whiskey in his hand, was Damien Cross, the same man who had kissed her under a thunderstorm in Milan 2 years ago, the same man who had whispered promises in her ear and made her believe in fairy tales again. The same man who had vanished from her hotel room the next morning without so much as a goodbye note. "Eli." Clarissa practically floated across the marble floor, her engagement ring catching the light like a small star. "There you are. Come meet my fiancé." Eliana's legs felt like water, but she forced herself to move forward. Damien turned, and for a split second, she saw her own shock reflected in his dark eyes. Then his expression smoothed into polite interest, as if they were meeting for the first time. "Damien, this is my baby sister Eliana, the one I told you about, my little world traveler." "Pleasure to meet you," Damien said, extending his hand. His voice was exactly as she remembered, deep, controlled, with just a hint of an accent that spoke of expensive schools and old money. When their hands touched, electricity shot up her arm. She saw him flinch almost imperceptibly. "Likewise," she managed, pulling her hand away as quickly as politeness allowed. The dinner that followed was torture. Clarissa chattered endlessly about wedding plans, honeymoon destinations, and how lucky she was to have found her soulmate. Damien played the part of the devoted fiancé perfectly, attentive, charming, completely in love. But Eliana caught the moments when his mask slipped, the way his jaw tightened when Clarissa mentioned their first meeting, the way his eyes found hers across the table when he thought no one was looking, the way his hand stilled on his wine glass when Clarissa talked about their future children. She tried to leave the next morning, packed her bags, called a cab, and was halfway to the airport when her phone rang. "Don't go." Damien's voice was raw, desperate. "Please, we need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about," she whispered, watching the city blur past the taxi window. "You're marrying my sister." "I didn't know." "God, Eliana, I didn't know she was your sister when I proposed. If I had..." "What? You wouldn't have asked her? You would have chosen me instead?" The words came out bitter, laced with 2 years of hurt. "You left me, Damien. You made your choice that morning in Milan. I had to leave. There were things, complications you didn't understand. But I never stopped thinking about you. I never stopped looking for you." The taxi pulled up to the terminal, but Eliana couldn't move. "It doesn't matter now. She loves you. She's planning a life with you. And what about what I want? What about what you want?" The question hung in the air like a loaded gun, because the truth was she wanted him, had never stopped wanting him. Even now, knowing it was wrong, knowing it would destroy everything, she wanted him with a desperation that scared her. She hung up and got on the plane. But she didn't go back to Florence. Instead, she checked into a hotel in Queens and spent 3 days staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out how to survive the next 6 weeks. The Hamptons estate was something out of a magazine. Rolling lawns, white tents, enough flowers to stock a small country. Clarissa looked radiant in a flowing white dress, accepting congratulations and air kisses from New York's elite. Eliana stood at the edge of the crowd, nursing a glass of champagne and trying to blend into the background. She'd managed to avoid Damien for most of the evening, but she could feel his presence like a magnetic pull. "You look beautiful." She turned to find him beside her, devastatingly handsome in his tailored tuxedo. The setting sun cast golden light across his face, highlighting the sharp angles of his cheekbones. "Don't," she said quietly. "Please don't make this harder than it already is. I can't help it. Do you know what it's been like, watching you these past few weeks? Pretending I don't know the way you taste, the sound you make when you laugh, the way you curl up when you sleep. Stop." Her voice broke on the word. "I'm going to call off the wedding." The words hit her like a physical blow. "You can't. Clarissa loves you. She's planned her whole future around you. And what about us? What about our future? We don't have a future, Damien. We had 2 days in Milan. That's all." It was more than 2 days, and you know it. It was everything. Before she could respond, Clarissa's voice rang out across the party. Everyone, please. Damien and I have an announcement." Eliana's blood turned to ice as she watched her sister take Damien's hand and pull him toward the center of the crowd. Clarissa was glowing, practically vibrating with excitement. "We wanted to share our wonderful news with all of you," Clarissa said, her voice carrying across the lawn. "We're not just getting married. We're going to be parents." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Eliana watched Damien's face go white, saw the exact moment he realized what this meant. There would be no calling off the wedding now. No choosing love over duty. Clarissa was carrying his child. What followed were the darkest weeks of Eliana's life. She threw herself into wedding preparations, playing the role of the supportive sister while dying inside. Damien tried to maintain distance, but the pull between them was too strong. It started with stolen glances across crowded rooms, then whispered conversations in empty hallways. A touch that lingered too long when he helped her with her coat. A kiss behind the library door that left them both shaking. They were playing with fire, and they both knew it. But some attractions are too powerful to resist, even when you know they'll destroy you. The breaking point came 2 weeks before the wedding. Eliana was working late in Clarissa's apartment, addressing invitations, when Damien arrived home from a business trip. Clarissa was at her bachelorette party, and they were alone. "I can't do this anymore," he said, finding her in the study. "I can't marry her when I'm in love with you. You have to. She's having your baby. The baby doesn't change how I feel about you. It changes everything." She stood up so quickly that invitations scattered to the floor. "That's your child, Damien. Your family. I won't be the woman who destroys that." "You're not destroying anything. You're saving me." He crossed the room in 3 strides and kissed her with 2 years of pent-up longing. She melted into him, all her resolve crumbling. For a moment, nothing else existed. Not Clarissa, not the baby, not the impossibility of their situation. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. "Come away with me," he whispered against her lips. "Tonight, we'll go somewhere she'll never find us." For a heartbeat, she almost said yes. Almost threw away everything for the man she loved. But then she heard Clarissa's key in the lock, her laughter echoing through the apartment. "I can't," Eliana whispered, stepping away from him. "I won't." The truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deep you bury it. It came out 3 days before the wedding in the worst possible way. An anonymous email sent to Clarissa with photos from a hotel security camera. Damien and Eliana in an elevator, his hand on her face, her eyes closed as he kissed her. The confrontation was brutal. Clarissa, 6 months pregnant and shaking with rage, threw the photos at Eliana's feet. "How long?" she demanded. "How long have you been sleeping with my fiancé? Clary, it's not what you think. Don't lie to me. I can see it in your faces. Both of you. How could you do this to me? How could you do this to your own sister?" Damien tried to explain, tried to take the blame, but Clarissa wouldn't listen. She was beyond reason, beyond forgiveness. The golden child had been betrayed by the 2 people she trusted most. "Get out," she said finally, her voice deadly quiet. "Both of you. Get out of my life." The wedding was called off. The scandal made headlines. Billionaire's love triangle, sister's betrayal, society wedding cancelled. Damien's business empire weathered the storm, but barely. His reputation was in tatters. His personal life splashed across every gossip magazine in the country. Eliana disappeared again, this time for good. She left New York the day after the confrontation and didn't look back. Not when Clarissa's lawyer called about the baby. Not when Damien's private investigator tracked her down in Prague. Not when her mother begged her to come home for Christmas. She'd made her choice. She'd chosen her sister's happiness over her own, even though it cost her everything. The small bookstore in Asheville, North Carolina, was exactly the kind of place Eliana had always dreamed of owning. Cozy, quiet, filled with the smell of old books and fresh coffee. She'd bought it with the last of her savings and was slowly building a life that felt almost peaceful. She was shelving new arrivals when the bell above the door chimed. She looked up and froze. Damien stood in the doorway, older somehow, with lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. He was holding the hand of a little girl with dark curls and his unmistakable green eyes. "Hello, Eliana," he said quietly. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The little girl, Clarissa's daughter, looked up at her with curious eyes. "Daddy, is this the lady from the pictures?" Eliana's heart stopped. "Pictures?" Damien's smile was sad, tired. "Clarissa. She's been sick. Cancer. She asked me to find you. She wants to see you." The world tilted. "Is she?" "She's fighting, but she wants to make things right before." He couldn't finish the sentence. Eliana looked at the little girl, her niece, and felt something crack open in her chest. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Elena," the girl said shyly. Mama named me after someone special. The tears came then, hot and unstoppable. Clarissa had named her daughter after her. Even after everything, even after the betrayal and the pain, she'd named her daughter after the sister who'd broken her heart.